Another of my favorite is many years ago, back when my hair was longer and a different color. I was working with students with creative design exercise, a course called 270, Introduction to Design. The challenge was to, from a kit of materials, build a particular device. The students accepted that challenge, but they accepted a much more subtle and important challenge, which was to compete like crazy, but treat each other nicely in the process. I started calling that gracious professionalism. The course is now called 2007, and several faculty members have taken it over since. Dan Fry took it over last year, and it's alive and well. But as I was turning that course over to other folks, I met Dean Kamen. Dean Kamen is an intellectual and energy powerhouse. Hundreds of patents. He invented the Segway, lots of things. He's an incredibly interesting guy. He had founded something called FIRST, for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, aimed at changing the culture related to how people respect science and technology. I got together with him and said we could do the 270 competition on steroids, and we did it and called it the first robotics competition. The first one was in 1992. It was relatively modest. It was called Maze Craze. It was in a tray of corn. The robots were kind of small. They were tethered. Very quickly, it grew to the point that our championship was at Disney. Epcot built a special event, a big show, a lot going on. The robots had become the size they could outrun humans. Here you see robots that could shoot balls into that goal faster than the best NBA player, built by high school kids working with professionals and university students. So to give you some idea of what the championship is like now, I have some clips from the rap video, and I will try to talk over it to give you some idea of the enthusiasm. Kids show up from all over. About 25,000 people come to Atlanta, to the Superdome. The big robots are the big show. The middle-sized robots this size are coming on strong. There's a lot of new teams there. Probably the most exciting group to watch are the first Lego League kids that come from 40 countries around the world, and they really understand at their age gracious professionalism and enthusiasm. But the main thing is that it's a big celebration, convincing these kids that this stuff is just as important as the Final Four basketball, etc. A lot of famous people come. The group takes itself not too seriously, but seriously enough, a celebration of the many things that have happened. Gracious professionalism is the cornerstone of the FIRST organization. Compete like crazy, but treat each other nice in the process. If you Google gracious professionalism in quotes, you get lots of hits, almost all of them associated with FIRST. The Urban Dictionary definition of FIRST includes that giving a part to your opponent so they don't have to forfeit a match is a good example of gracious professionalism. That happened in the finale match a couple of seasons ago in front of 25,000 people. Yes! So these kids are shedding tears of joy, not because they won the robotics competition, but they won the bigger prize, which is the Chairman's Award, which is essentially for the most exemplary relationship between a team and community. These kids are from one of the toughest high schools in the Phoenix area. They came out of gangs. They transformed many lives, and many of them are now in school. So in all three levels of the first competition, there is a big prize that has to do with the right kind of behavior. The numbers, these are estimated for this year, the current year. They're only slightly bumped up from last year because we think this is going to be a tough year. But FIRST is big enough now that 10% of the freshman class at MIT last year were FIRST alumni. And it's because they've done something. The letters of recommendation about those kids are really powerful. So it is about working with mentors. When adults and students work together on a new problem, the right kind of learning happens. When they're aligned and focused, wonderful stuff happens. And I think that is the model that really makes sense for university education. We know it for the doctoral student, doctoral professor. We seem to forget it when we look at undergraduates. So doing stuff with mentors is a big deal. And I believe that FIRST is absolutely unambiguous evidence that that really does work. Notice that we have juxtaposed robots and gracious. Yes. So I believe presence, the most valuable thing that any of us have, should be used for education. Let's outsource the training stuff. Now, I'm not talking about distance learning. I'm not talking about posting your PowerPoint slides or your notes on the web. I'm talking about a much, much more sophisticated thing. If you'd like to read a chapter about this, if you Google my name and new media's impact, you can download a chapter that I wrote in 2004 about some of the ways that we could make this transition. If you'd like to look at evidence, if you worry that new kinds of learning or new kinds of training can be effective, Clay Christensen's new book, Disrupting Class, he argues, as he did with the Innovator's Dilemma book, that Bethlehem steel was wiped out by mini mills, that cable-operated diggers were wiped out by hydraulic diggers, that floppy disks were replaced by other kinds of memory because the industry was not responding. Now, this book is full of data that essentially shows that other kinds of learning can be dramatically effective, but Clay argues that it will happen gradually. Just be patient. I'm not patient. I want it to happen now. We know there is a better way. We have all kinds of readers. We have netbooks. We have organic LED screens that are coming out now. Smartphones are everywhere. Cloud computing is assumed to be. Voice control is happening. Lots of levels of wireless everywhere are coming fast. So we have portable, color, wireless anywhere, inexpensive in particular compared to textbooks, fast, unlimited access to information, and profoundly valuable if we do it well. Given that capability, I think scanning books is a stupid misuse, in particular of textbooks, of a very powerful new set of tools. If you want to read a novel, fine. But if you want to deal with an engineering textbook, it is inconceivable to me that it makes sense for it to be something that's on paper and doesn't move and is not interactive.